Welcome everyone, this is Farcon aka Extreme Raging with a new build that's extremely powerful and can handle every build out there. The damage on this build is quite insane, it's very versatile, but it also is very squishy, and you have to be very tight on your points as well. This is the equipment that I'm using. The main weapon you will be using is the Follower Saber. Refined of course. Valor Heart for various tactics such as dealing with R1 spamming. Priest Chime, which you will unequip after using Tears of Denial. Simple Iron Shield, you can upgrade that to 10. I prefer this shield over parrying with the Cestus because if you get a partial parry, it doesn't damage your stamina quite as much. Court Sorcerer Staff, the best staff for pure int users. Avalon plus 9, we'll be using that to bait out attacks by ranging them from afar. Some basic gear for fashion. The rings are quite important since you'll be tight on stat points. I like to use a Scholar's Ring and a Hunter's Ring because you will want strength, because strength with two-handing weapons increases its damage, and there might be some situations where you won't be using a Hunter's Ring. For example, if I'm completely out of FP and I just taken a hit to 1, you want to switch to your Sun Princess Ring and get some HP regen so they don't kill you with knives. Now, let's get a little bit more in detail with the spells I'll be using. Typically, you want to start off the battle with this chime here, using Tears of Denial. When you use Tears of Denial, it helps make up for the squishiness of this build, because without being a host and being in Ember form, it only roughly has about 100 HP. Tears of Denial will help you get that last hit in when you trade. I also like to use Homing Soul Mass to deal with various situations, such as multiple opponents, or just keeping them back so you can buff your weapon. Typically you want to use the Avalon to bait people into attacking you or just damage them from afar. Something simple I like to do is just shoot them, switch to shield and parry. It works far more often than you think, especially when you lull the opponent into a false sense of security, making it think that you're just always retreating. But no. You're just baiting them into a trap, and they don't see it coming. Now, I'm going to show you some footage and talk about the various tactics I use to showcase why this build is probably the most powerful and versatile in the meta right now. It's very easy to do over 1,500 damage with this build, even higher with the right rings equipped and stats boosted. Many people will panic roll after the second hit. Using the weapon art can ensure you doing tons of damage and typically one-shotting the more squishy builds. Watch as I lure this guy into a false sense of security with my ranged attacks. This scythe has been giving me a lot of trouble, but just like with all weapons, it can be parried. Typically you want to also follow up with your weapon art to chase them. It doesn't always work, but typically it does, especially if they panic roll away. Oh, okay, bye. Yeah, that's right, keep using your special. While they're using your special, use your weapon art as well. It has a really long reach, and for the first part of it, you're also blocking as well. A tactic I like to use is to switch to my other shield with Valor Heart. It's extremely tough to notice when the opponent is doing that, especially if you switch multiple times. All these scythe users have no chance, that's for sure. The range capabilities of this build isn't powerful, but it is quite annoying enough to bring your opponent to you. Pure Pyromancery or Pure Sorcery has the edge over you in ranged combat, so engage them in close combat if you can. Homing Soul Mass, not the crystal version, is very useful as a deterrent while you buff up, and it lets you distract the enemy as well. And if they're stupid enough to walk into it, it lets you get a combo off as well. Yeah, how about none of that? Thanks. Moral of the story, you spam running attacks and don't switch up your attacks, you get parried. One of the main tactics of this build is to cause the enemy to become reckless, so you can parry them and send them to the ground. One of the reasons I have Tears of Denial for this build is because it lets me get the last hit, even when I'm low on health. As you can see in this clip here, it let me survive this blow and not die, causing me to win. A lot of people will become reckless if they see you low on health, and sometimes they might just forget you have Tears of Denial up. Never being in a rush to fight your opponents. Let them come to you and take your time. Look for openings that you can exploit and cause them to take damage. Because you're squishy, try to feel out your opponent before you rush in. If you take your time and fight properly with tactics and intelligence, even the mighty scythe spammers will be felled. Against people with ultra great weapons that have a lot of hyper frames, take your time. Practice trying to get the openings, because their delay is a lot higher than normal weapons. And if that all doesn't work, try fishing for backstabs. Remember, people with ultra great swords and such are slower than you. Take full advantage of that. Some final thoughts about this build. This stat allocation is very tight with this build because the core concept is to get roughly 40 strength, 40 dex, and 40 intelligence. The strength and dex are the soft cap, and intelligence can be brought up higher. I want to stick around soul level 133, that way I can enjoy invasions a little bit more. However, if you want to increase the stat allocation to 60 on intelligence, then go ahead and do so. I would not recommend taking off any points to endurance or vigor, as those are quite important, and vigor gives you a lot of bang for your buck at 27 points, and you need endurance for stamina when you're using Valor Guard and just having stamina in general. If you have any questions or concerns about this, go ahead and drop a comment or message me and I'll be sure to answer as best as I can. Thank you for watching, especially those that have been stuck around with this channel for so long. I know I have been relatively inactive, but due to personal reasons I now have more time available. I'll also be showing off a clip where the arena bugs out, my ally is gone, and it's me up against two honorless thugs trying to kill me, and I come out on top. Once again, thank you, and as always, keep on gaming, but don't be hating.